Welcome to Manifest 360, the podcast where we talk about mindset, growth, business, relationships, and building a life that actually feels aligned instead of just looking good on social media. Today, we're talking about trust and relationships, mostly in business, because whether you're building a company, running a podcast, managing a team, networking, or trying to grow your brand, relationships are everything. People work with people that they trust. People buy from people that they trust. People recommend people that they trust. In a world full of animation and automation, AI, funnels, and growth hacks, human connection has actually become more valuable, not less, Vipin. And I think that nowadays, everybody's on their phone. Everybody's trying to do this, that, and the other thing. Instead of talking face-to-face with people, which people, I think, need and crave. I honestly crave that myself.
It's the personal connections that lights up our soul, lights up our intellect, lights up our body. The energy that we get from another person, especially of like-minded vibrations. And they say that you feel the energy up to 6 feet of the person that you're next to or the person you're around. So this energy thing, this energy alignment thing, it's real. Your heart is basically an energy machine. EKG is basically measuring the energy in your heart. Electricity coming out of your body. So yeah, we're definitely energetic beings. There's no doubt about that. It's science. It's not woo stuff. And so connection is really important. And I think it's really important to connect with like-minded people and relationships that are built on authenticity, that are built on trust, that are built on competence, and relationships that you can have the right intentions with some people sometimes, but there isn't a tactical alignment. I'll give an example of that later on today. But I had some really good things happen this week, and we'll talk about a couple of those stories. And what made me want to talk about this was having earned the trust of some really wise and executives who are very successful in the world. I got to meet with 3 of them this week, one-on-one in-person meetings, and I got hugs from 2 out of the 3, and the third one is probably the one I didn't get a hug from is probably going to be my biggest partner, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that the personal connections and relationships are really just so powerful. And then I had one that went sideways, and it's okay. It's just it was a new relationship that just was something that I was trying to overcome, but energetically we didn't align. And so it is what it is.
That's one of the hardest things that I had to learn myself is, all the years of being in the public eye, being a radio personality, and then being a bartender and whatnot, having people or knowing that people sometimes aren't going to like you. And that was a hard thing to overcome. That, when you're on the air, you try to get more listeners. You try to have everybody like what you're doing. When you're a bartender, same thing. You're trying to get more people in there, and you're working for money. You come to find out that not everybody likes you. And you can just do the best that you can to try to make the people that support you continue to like you, rather than trying to ditch the people that like you in order to try to find or gain the trust or friendship of somebody that who cares.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's I use the word appreciation. I often say I appreciate you to someone who I care about, who I want to hang out with more, and who I want to thank for their work or just a friendship. I use that word appreciation a lot. And, not everybody is going to like you. And that's the thing. I've talked about this Hindu thing before. My mom told me this, and or I read it somewhere as well. 1/3 of the people out there are evil. 1/3 of the people are in the middle, lost souls. And 1/3 of the people are enlightened souls. And I don't know if they're evil. I think they're just playing a negative part in this lifetime. So I want to qualify that. And they're just negative. They're just hard to be around. And for people who are positive or who are going down the enlightenment path, they're just energy suckers, right? They're called energy vampires sometimes. And then there's people in the middle who are kind of could be playing the role of an energy hog or energy, but they're the lost souls that we should try to help whenever we can. But always get back to the people that are part of our pod. Our pod is the one that's positive. You and I are positive beings. We tend to focus on the positive thing, less in the risk management and negativity and the realist people who are out there doing the mongering of fear. So I try not to live in that world of fear and doubt and pragmatism. I tend to focus on people who are optimistic in nature or possibility thinking. looking at opportunities, growth mindset, that kind of thing. And so for me, it is all about hanging out with the people that that you get along with, things that you align with, and people that make you feel good just by being there. They said it doesn't matter what you say to someone, it matters how you make them feel. And
It's so funny. I had that written down as one of the things I was going to bring up, because people don't remember the things that you say, but they do remember the way that you made them feel.
Exactly. That's how the saying
It's so,
goes. Yeah.
so funny. Written right on here.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. That's so true. It really is. How do you make somebody feel? And so, I want to talk about the 3 meetings that I had this week with 3 executives who are all really wealthy, really successful, really grounded. 2 of them are retired. 1 is working still. And these guys are pillars in our society from a social impact standpoint. 2 of them have had a huge impact in my career and my business and my life. One I met 26 years ago. Another one I met 28 years ago. I hadn't seen both of them for 12 years. And the one who I've only known for 3 years, he's the one I didn't get a hug from. But I see him every day. That's probably why. And so he's probably going to be my biggest connection as we go forward. So when I asked for a meeting with these guys that I hadn't seen for 14 years, within a week of contacting them, I was able to schedule a meeting. Again, these guys are like Stanford MBAs. These guys are like executives, one of the original people at Microsoft. Both of them actually worked at Microsoft years ago and super successful. And they were able to meet with me in relatively a short notice. And what was really interesting about that was I got hugs from both of them when I first saw them. And I wasn't expecting it from the guy who is uber rich, let's just say. But he's a little more distant to me. I don't see him very often. The second guy, I expected to get a hug because he's the only one in Seattle that's been to my wedding in Minneapolis. So that's the kind of relationship that I have with him. And so what was really nice about this is that over the years, I have built a trust with these guys, all 3 of them. The 26-year relationship and the 28-year relationships have seen me grow as a human being. They've known me for half of my lifetime, essentially. And what's been really special about this is it doesn't matter what the interaction is about. What matters is they just want to see Vipin. They appreciate Vipin, and I appreciate them for who they are and how we've connected in the past. We both made each other feel really good. I've appreciated them. I've let them know. And through the years, we've stayed in contact through Facebook or cell phones or kids and things like that. But there was never a connection missed. So meaning that hadn't seen it for years, we got to exactly where we left off. The same feeling of mutual respect, same feeling of benefit of knowing each other and appreciating each other.
Well, I was just going to say that's a true friendship right there, because, if you can reconnect with somebody that you hadn't seen in a long time and things go back to exactly the way they were, that means that you guys are destined to be friends for life. I mean, it's funny, and I'll throw our relationship out there because, I mean, when we knew each other in school, we didn't talk to each other for 30-some years, and then we did, and that connection was there, and it still felt like we were buddies like when we were in school, and so yeah. I think that if you have that type of friendship with somebody and you're true friends, it doesn't matter the amount of time or the amount of distance between you guys seeing each other or spending time together. It's still going to be there, and hopefully it's still going to be the same,
Yeah.
I have a buddy that I met 35 years ago, close to 40 years ago now, and we've been in and out of each other's lives multiple times, and it's that same feeling.
Yeah.
So that's excellent. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack.
No. That's perfect. That's exactly it, right? So my question in the back of my mind is, and kind of the topic of podcast is, how do you get there? How do you earn that trust? How do you earn that compatibility? How do you earn that mutual appreciation for each other? It takes time, and it takes a level of competence in communication, in energy management, emotional management, leadership skills, business competence, a whole bunch of things that if you're going to have a business relationship that turns into a friendship of mutual respect, you have to have essentially a level of matching communication style. You have to know how to speak with respect. You have to be matching to their level of sophistication. If they're highly intelligent beings, they're not going to want to hang out with somebody who's not as intelligent. They may hang out and be supportive, but they're more likely to connect with somebody when somebody can show them that they're skilled at their craft, or in the mutual meeting, or in the communication that's back and forth. If you're there and just pushing your own agenda to them, that's not going to get you what you want out of the relationship. You need to be able to go and match people where they're at, and then at some point direct the conversation to, here's what I would like to get out of the meeting, or here's what I'd like to get out of the situation. So in a professional relationship, one of the most important things that I learned, and this is something that I was trained on. I wrote a blog article on LinkedIn about communication this week, and relationships and business relationships. And basically, I have gone through 10 weeks of classroom training when I worked for this company in executive sales in IT, company out of Minneapolis that actually moved me to Seattle. It's called Gartner, and went through literally 10 weeks of classroom training as an executive, and dealing with CIOs, chief information officers of large companies. How do you earn their trust? How do you build relationships with them? How do you get them to think about whatever you're offering in such a way that you're adding value to them, not just trying to sell them something? The whole thing is around adding value to people and their lives, right? If you add value, they're willing to give you something back in value. If it's you're adding a product or service, they're going to pay you back in a compensatory way, in a cash or a financial reward of whatever that is, the price of the product. So there are three components that I believe are important in building trust. Number one is you've got to be able to respect people, respect their time, respect where they're coming from, respect in setting up introduction of what it is that you're trying to do, match to see that you understand where they're coming from, what their background is, do your research to really understand what types of things that they're interested in. So this is not just about prepping for a sales call. This is really understand, hey, this person is an executive at this level. I want to understand what types of things he or she thinks about. What types of things are things that we may want to talk about. You probably don't want to talk about your kid's ball game to build a relationship with them, saying, hey, you had a great weekend. That's for a buddy situation and a buddy relationship in the neighborhood or the ball club. In the business world and earning trust and relationship, you want to respect that person. So,
and their time and everything too.
Their time is the most important. They're giving you your time. So you want to start out with understanding where they're coming from, understanding their background, understanding what they may want to. You may want to preface that meeting with some sort of a context. Hey, John, I want to catch up. Hey, Tom, I want to catch up. I want to talk about this. I'm working on something exciting, but I just want to catch up with you. I want to be able to have this conversation and give them a little bit of taste of where you want the conversation to go to, that you are ultimately going to talk about this thing. When you get there, then you want to do something called matching their communication style. So first thing is respecting them, right? Matching their communication style. If they're talking fast, you talk fast. If they're talking slow, talk slow. You have to be able to be in that same energy alignment with them. Most of the guys who are successful that are leaders don't necessarily talk fast. They get to a level, they can speak and they can have you get to the point quickly if you need to, but you don't put rapid pace fire on them and talk 100 miles an hour. When I met with a gentleman who was one of the original founders of Microsoft and a leader there and retired in the early 2000s, he was much older than the three guys that I talked to. And he literally took his time talking about stuff. And he probably shared the most wisdom with me while I was there. And he brought up a thing that he left me with some wisdom at the end that I want to talk about. But really, I sat there in awe of him making the time for me. And the meeting with him lasted an hour and 15 minutes, which is the most time he's ever given me, except for the first meeting when I met him in 2000. He is actually the one that introduced me to the current CEO of Microsoft. He said there was a rising star named Satya Nadella, and that's how I got to meet Satya Nadella. So he's kind of Satya's mentor as well. So first thing, respect, do your background, do all the knowledge base that you need to understand. Second, when you get there, match their level of communication, rate, speed, know-how, all of that stuff that you have to be a skilled communicator. Third is you provide value. You can provide value just by thanking them for what they have done for your life, which is mostly what I did. You can provide value to him by listening in that conversation. So most important value that we can provide to people is really appreciating them by listening to them, asking them intelligent questions and listening. When we listen to them, when people are heard, they respect you and you earn trust from them. If you're just pushing your agenda, that isn't going to work.
Back when I was learning how to do talk radio, I went to a couple of coaches on talk radio, and one of the things that they pushed was being authentic. Be you, because people can see through that, and people can know. People know if you're faking it, and so I try to be the best me that I can be at all moments. So I mean that kind of ties into what you're talking about, is to be authentic. Be your true self when you go in there. And we've been talking about that for the last couple of years over the podcast, but it's always good to hear it as a reminder, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about how that fits into one of the 3 pillars that I just talked about, earning trust, right? When you are authentic in a communication style, you are actually emanating the most powerful energetic frequency in the world. I heard a TED Talk or thing maybe in the last couple of years, and we've talked about it number of times. The 5th chakra, which is your throat chakra, is the one that builds connection. I remember I had my friend Ryan on. Ryan used to go by Ryan, and then he ended up becoming a very authentic and honest person, and he ended up building amazing relationships because he's so authentic. He and others, when you're authentic, people see the honesty. When you are being authentic, you emanate this presence. Now, when you're being authentic, it doesn't mean that you're being blunt and rude. You have to be sophisticated enough to be authentic and communicate in such a way that you're saying your honesty and you're still pacing it in such a way, or saying it in such a way that comes across and lands well with your audience, whatever that audience is. You often become authentic when you answer questions that are being asked of you. So you're not lying about them and or trying to interact in such a way like a politician does. But I hear your question, but I want to redirect it to this thing. That's not how people respect authenticity. Authenticity means you're asking me a question and I can tell you what I know about the subject and what I don't know about the subject. And I can tell you that I can go figure out what I don't know if you need that answer at a later time. And what I understand is this is important to you about XYZ, and here's what I understand about X and Y, and Z I just don't know something about. So when you admit that you don't know all the answers, guess what happens?
Your trust level goes way up. Way up.
Way up. The trust meter just goes way up to the moon. People do not respect people who make up shit.
Yeah.
People
or know-it-alls. People don't like know-it-alls either.
They don't like know-it-alls. Know-it-alls make up stuff. Yeah. Nobody knows everything. Nobody just does. And so what you have is an opinion based on your beliefs, based on your experiences, based on your education. You're not a factual machine. I'm only reiterating things that I've read, things that I've watched, things that I've heard. And I'm certainly not an expert in these areas, but things that I know how to build trustworthy relationships. I can tell you there's 3 pillars. There's respect, there's communication matching, and then there's value providing. You provide that value by listening, provide that value by being authentic, provide that value by asking the right questions, and then providing them some sort of a nugget, either as an appreciation just for them, thanking them for their time, and or saying, I've got this thing that you may be interested in. And once you've earned that trust, then you can introduce that thing that you're interested in to get from them. And all 3 of them, the ones that I met with this week, are willing to take me to the next level of what I wanted from them. And I only talked about it for less than 10 minutes with all 3 of them.
Well, it's just the whole thing about planting seeds, Vipin. You're just going in there, you're like Johnny Appleseed, you're leaving a little information here and a little information here and a little information there. And pretty soon that's going to grow into something great that'll help you in the long run, because a lot of opportunities come from those long-term connections that you built, 25, 30, 40 years ago. And those are the things that are going to help you. Just like the people that you've known for 23 years and 28 years, those little drop seeds are now blossoming into hopefully a Vipin forest.
Yeah, exactly. It's this farm that you're building, and you've learned farming for all these years. You learn how to plant the seeds, how to nurture, you know how to get the watering machines out there, you learn how to take care of it, take out the weeds from the plants, all of that stuff. You've worked on this craft, so now when you're going to do this thing, you're very competent at it. I had a situation, so all 3 of those went really well, very respectful. Let's talk about the one that didn't go well. I have been working with this person for the last 2 weeks. And in the first night, I ended up talking to this person for about 3 hours. I think I told you about the relationship with the venture funding thing. This person is out of Portland, Oregon. Really a positive, high energy person, and had a lot of passion for what they're doing about social service, social impact. As we started to develop and we got to the contract of the relationship that we're going to work on, I almost gave up in that first week on that person. I'm like, this is getting too difficult to work through. And in the middle of the conversation in that first week, I basically prayed to God and I said, God, what do you want me to do in this situation? I basically, in the middle of the conversation I'm having with that person, I basically reached out to the higher source to figure this out. I can't handle this. This is not working. And she turned her tune. She said all the right things. And the agreement verbally was agreed to. And then a document was generated. And we basically ran into and agreed to the terms. Off we go.
Good.
Yeah. And then it never got signed. That's okay. Last week, the person on Thursday sent me an amazing message. And on Friday, we talked for an hour to 2 hours every single day last week. And the person was somebody that I really wanted to work with because of the thing that they're presenting themselves with. And all of a sudden, Friday, all this negativity and attacks came at me. And I was prepping for a meeting with one of my mentors. I was driving. And I basically had to say, look, this isn't the right time. We're starting to argue. We can't go there. I've got to prep for this meeting. And we should talk after I get back. Talked after he got back, the same tone. I had a business associate also talk to that person in between saying, hey, Eric, can you go talk to her as well just to make sure that she's doing okay and supported? And he talked to her. I talked to him. And then I ended up talking to her after my meeting with my Microsoft exec friend. I came back, same kind of negative energy. And at that point, I had to be authentic. And I said, let's talk in another hour. Please provide something in writing to me that you are feeling uncomfortable about, things that you want in the relationship. And I meditated for about 45 minutes. I came back, same kind of fiery negative energy. 3 patterns in the same day. That person didn't change their tone. At that point, I basically became very authentic. I was very calm and centered. And I basically said, I don't think this is going to work. And I basically said, it's not going to work because XYZ. Person wasn't competent in their communication skills and mindset. And if I was going to take that person and put them in front of other executives, they were going to ask me, do you trust this person? I couldn't answer that question direct. That person would have ended up costing me a lot of relationship. They would have said, Vipin, how did you bring this person in? So I had to make a tough decision on Friday on ending the relationship with that person. And it was a mutual decision together because things that I said weren't comfortable for that person to hear. They were competency-based objections that I had. This is not going to work because you're just not competent in these areas. And I didn't say that word competent directly, but I said to that point. So I had to be authentic. I had to be my true self. And I was personally afraid of that relationship ending because I wanted something that person had. It's always something that person has that you want and you're afraid to be authentic on. And you're afraid of losing that thing that they have to provide you. So it becomes very important that you are ready to let go. You are ready to let go of what you think you want and let the universe decide for you what is better for you.
Opportunities come and go, and the trusted reputation that you have and that you are bringing to the table, that can be affected by something negative like this person. You stepping up and doing that probably saved yourself a lot of headache and heartache into the future.
And so it was meant to be. Now, this person presented an opportunity that I did a ton of work on in the last 2 weeks. I did a lot of groundwork to take that opportunity and run with it. It has to do with a venture fund. And I built basically a framework for it. I did all of this legwork with communication with leaders and investors and all of this stuff. And I moved it along to a certain level. And I was thinking, do I really need this person? Or am I the person to do this myself? I will need a partner. I have a partner already. I allocated to it. I will need somebody with some expertise in a particular area of healthcare, let's just say. And I had another advisor lined up who I felt really good, energetically aligned with. And so yesterday morning, so the relationship ended on Friday with this person. I had another person lined up, and I talked to this other person, and I said, hey, Mary, let's just call her Mary for the time being. Mary, would you be interested in this? I need somebody with healthcare experience, and this kind of experience. You seem to have it. I'm energetically aligned with you, and I've known Mary for a couple of months, not just 2 weeks. And Mary has known one of my business partners for 6 years. So ended up talking to Mary yesterday, and I talked about her background in this healthcare space. And not only did she provide value to me in that particular hour and a half, she provided something even more valuable than I never would have thought about. She provided expertise in a particular niche within the healthcare space that is massive, that one of my investors is interested in, that I don't have much background in. So Mary is able to provide value to this friend of mine through our program. And now what's happening is Mary became a partner, got her headshot, put her up on the website already, and Mary is ready to go. So what happened was, by being authentic on Friday, ending the relationship, I was able to replace that person with Mary, who's even more qualified and is more energetically aligned with me. And I don't have to shut that opportunity down. Instead, I'm actually going to flower that and make that and plant those seeds and make that grow even more. So the universe had its interesting way of working things out by me being authentic, by me being respectful, appreciative of people. And one of the most powerful things that we can do in being authentic is being radically honest with ourselves. And when you're honest with yourself and you get to a certain level, you start to see, hey, am I capable of this or am I not capable of this? Do I have the competency in this area? If not, where can I get the competency from? I had to go through all of that in the last 2 or 3 days, and I made another call to another friend of over 10 years, and I said, hey, Charlie, would you be interested in working and getting involved in this thing? And Charlie fired back on LinkedIn immediately. He said, sure, I'm traveling next week, but I'll meet with you on Monday. So here from Charlie from Saturday, I'm meeting with Charlie on Monday. So what I'm saying is, by being authentic, by being honest, by being competent, by trusting the universe, trusting the higher source, things get aligned and you build relationships over the years that you just don't know how and when you're going to use them. I not use them as in like use them and throw them away, but to be able to leverage them to mutual benefit of both parties. That's really the critical thing, I think, in relationships. How do you mutually benefit others?
And that wraps up this episode of Manifest 360. If today's conversation sparks something in you, don't just think about it, apply it. Alignment isn't a vibe, it's a practice. Belief, emotion, strategy, and action, all moving in the same direction, that's where momentum lives. Be sure to follow, share with someone building something meaningful, and join us next week as we continue helping you manifest wealth and purpose. Manifest 360 is a podcast for hire.com production.